So you went to the audition in Burbank. How long did it take for you to figure out that you were going to be selected?
Uh, Day one was 2,000 girls, wheedled down to 200 and dancing alone. They weren't even singing yet.
Oh.
And I was just kind of like, I'm more of a singer than a dancer because I am. And I think people now realize there are singers, dancers, and dancer singers in the Pussycat Dolls. And that's okay. We were a collective, right? But it wasn't my forte to be this awesome dancer. I was a good dancer. I was a great singer. I was a better singer than I was a dancer. And I would say the same for Nicole and Melody. Um, so that was kind of, oh gosh, I got to get to that point where I could do what I know how to do well. And that was scary because you see girls that are beautiful, like just eliminated. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. And then they got down to the 200 and everyone, you to take a break. And if you packed a lunch, and I didn't, so I didn't eat. I was just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to sit here. And then they brought us into rooms to sing. And then by the end of that night, 9 p.m., they had eliminated us down to the top 19. And I was in the top 19. Yeah.
Do you remember what you sang for them?
Yes, I do. I sang Fallen Alicia Keys.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Ron Fair stood up and he dropped an F-bomb. He was like, "Halla effing Lulia," a girl that could sing. And he stood up, he brought me over to the piano and he started playing. And I understood at that point, the years of training with R. Kelly, this is now where I get to do what I know how to do. And I felt confident in that moment. I was like, okay, so I think they think I'm okay, and they did, and they narrowed it down to the top 20, which is the top 19. Really, it's the top 19. It wasn't the top 20, it was top 19. And they gave us 2 sheets of paper. I still have the paper, and it had all of the different singers and songs you had to pick from for the next day. And I had nowhere to go, nowhere to stay, no charger on my phone. Like, I was in bad shape. I was like, what am I going to do? And I sat on the stoop of center staging. I thought I was going to sleep there for the night. That was the plan. I was like, I'm going to sleep here. That's what's going to happen to me. And I sat there, and this beautiful Black woman with an afro who was in the room when we were auditioning. I didn't know who she was, but she was the editor of Allure magazine and Jane magazine. And she winds down her window and she says, "Sweetheart, do you need a ride?" And I didn't want to not take a ride, getting somewhere to at least a phone where I could call people I knew in LA. So I was like, total, yes, please. And she was like, "Where are you staying?" I didn't have anywhere to stay, but I didn't want to sound like I didn't have it together. Just insecure and being young and wanting to still pretend that you're super confident when you're totally not.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I'm staying at the Standard on Sunset." And she drove me there. And in the car ride, she said, "They really like you and a girl, Melody. You guys are really special. And so no matter what happens, you need to know you got to keep doing this music thing because you're good. You got to keep going, no matter what happens." And I was like, okay. So I kind of knew they liked me, and I didn't know who Melody was, but I was like, okay, I got to figure out who she is when I get to the audition tomorrow. And the audition was the next day. And so I get to Standard. They have phones in the front that actually work. Call my friend Catherine, who's in Santa Monica. She came and picked me up, stayed with her, went to the audition the next day. And from there, they narrowed it down to the top 3 girls. And at that point, it was myself, Melody Thornton, and a girl named Tiffany Baldwin. A lot of people haven't heard about Tiffany Baldwin. So she was this fiery, gorgeous redhead. And from there, champagne toasting, "Oh my gosh, you're a Pussycat Doll," but not really realizing they put us up in a hotel. They fly us all home wherever we need to go. Melody went back to Arizona. I went back to Las Vegas. Not sure where Tiffany went. And we were waiting on a call to find out, because they were going to do now invitation only auditions where girls in the industry that are known. So even though I'd had opportunity, they have to be submitted by an agent or manager as an invitation. I had asked managers that I knew, and they said, "We don't think they'll pick you." That was kind of, they were like, "No, I don't think you're their cup of tea." They sent other girls who didn't make it to the end. So it worked out for me in the end. So I get home, I'm waiting. They finally call me, Melody, and I'm thinking Tiffany. She called me and was like, "Did you hear anything?" And I just didn't want to break her heart. I was like, "No, I didn't." And she, I guess, never got a call back. I don't know what that reason was. Me and Melody flew out. Then it was Anna Maria and a girl named Shalom. And Anna
Mhm.
Maria was a part of Pop Stars with Nicole. And she's actually, I think, the one that told Nicole about that next audition. So in walks Nicole. Now it's these five of us who then, and I remember some of the other women were kind of upset about that. Like, well, why is she walking in the final hour? You know, yeah, she auditioned. They loved it. Then the five of us had to audition for industry only. And that was when we were now down to the top three. So
And then, so what was that moment like when you finally knew that you were in the group and you met the other girls? Like, did you all get along initially?
So me and Melody actually, our hotel rooms had like that door in between. So
Mhm.
we kind of spent time together right away. Me and Nicole were best friends.
Yeah.
We were super close because we had to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and that means a lot of the singing and the things that people don't want to hear as fans. Like when Nicole said she did a lot of the heavy lifting, she wasn't lying.
Mhm.
But there was other girls who did, myself included. And when I left before the launch of that album, and so they don't want to admit there's another voice on those songs, but that's why the first album doesn't sound like the second album, because I was
Mhm.
on that and I did my work, and that's okay because I'm doing this now. But be honest and truthful if we're all coming forward to support one another. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I haven't had the support from the women, is because it's a house of cards that if you actually admit there was a girl who really sang, who helped a lot of the heavy lifting, when in fact a lot of them lip sync to what I did. And that's a fact. There were only three singers in the Pussycat Dolls. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's the
Mhm.
truth.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's totally valid. For the first album, were you paid for your vocals being used?
No, so we were hired cast members. In fact, we were paid $500 a week. I still have my paycheck stubs because I know people wouldn't believe me. We were hired cast members. We had no rights to anything. It was owned by Robin.
Yeah,
Robin Anton.
Robin Antin. I wanted to talk about her.
Oh boy. Oh boy. She owned the group. And she was the one who envisioned the group. And that was hard too, because when we came in as singers, myself, Melody, and Nicole, there was already a tribe of girls and they were sisters. Here
Mhm.
we were coming in and we were not. And so, but we were coming in because we could do something they couldn't. And they were part of this because they created something that we hadn't. So here
Mhm.
we were, trying to make, and I make sense of it now as an adult. I'm like, wow, if we could have just understood we were stronger together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But at the time, you're thinking like, well, I wanted this and I'm better at this and da 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 da. And that becomes difficult when you already have a very different, difficult dichotomy of a structure that's not a normal music structure. Music structure is usually you're an artist, you're a band, you get signed, boom. This was a joint venture between Universal proper and Robin Antin,
Mhm.
not the girls itself. The girls are hired cast members and were disposable and interchangeable at any time.
So can you briefly explain to the people who haven't heard of Robin Antin, like what is her role here? So was she like, I guess the a
Robin,
producer, the manager? What was her role?
she did all of it. She envisioned the look for a lot of the girls. She created the Pussycat Dolls with two other members of the Pussycat Doll, girls. There were a bunch of dancers. They created this idea, this concept. She copywrote it, patented, trademarked. She did what
Mhm.
she needed to do, and she became the owner. But there were a lot of girls that kind of helped influence that, I think, from what I know. And she was just the business mind. She was the business mind behind it. She knew what she wanted, and she was very driven. She was very difficult and very tough, but very good at her job. Like most people who are good at their job, they're sometimes hard to deal with.
Yeah. Was she like, did she kind of play like dictator? I mean, was she the one that decided that you guys get $500 a week?
I don't know if that was from her decision. I would think that that was probably accounting for the record company, maybe. Um, but when it came to any of the money, we didn't get paid for per show. Maybe she did. I remember there were arguments at times with different people in regards to that because we wanted to be paid more. We needed it. We were struggling. There were times where we were really struggling. And I mean, it's like, here's your career, here's your dream.
Yeah. So I mean, so she's said that you weren't
Mhm.
ever an official member of the group.
I know. You know what? I have a lovely record contract that says that I was. And so shots fired. Why hasn't she sued me? You see, she likes to sue everyone who's talked to me because she knows that and not the smaller people that have talked to me, the big conglomerate people. And I say this because I see what you're doing. And now at 39 years old, nearly 40 years old, do not play that game with me. I have receipts and I will put you to shame, because I will show that you not only slave labored us, okay? We were put through severe trauma that we will never recover from. Girls had to have forced abortions, and I was a doll, and I made you millions of dollars because my voice is on those records. So
Yeah.
stop.